So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our session on what's new in Office 365 management. So let's do a quick show of hands here. How many of you would like to spend less time managing Office 365? And you can be honest, right? I mean, it's just you and your best 50 friends here in the room. So it's OK. OK, actually, a lot of people just raised their hand. And I got to say, I'm not surprised to see that, because we know that many of you spend a lot of time managing Office 365. And you especially used to spend a lot of time in here, the old Office 365 Admin Center. On average, in admin, when they came to the old Office 365 Admin Center, they viewed 6.7 pages. And I bet that at least one of those pages, you didn't go there because you wanted to, but you ended up on that page looking for a feature or functionality. See some people nodding, yeah. Not surprised, because, well, as we all know, Office 365 has been evolving at a rapid pace over the last couple of years, making new features and functionality available both to end users as well as to admins on a very regular, almost daily basis, which is great. I mean, we all love new features and functionality. That's why we work in IT, right? But that has also led to the Admin Center becoming more complex and sometimes difficult to navigate, as you can see in the navigation bar on the left. And it has also made it more difficult for you to stay up to date and to stay current with all the features and functionality that are rolling out, especially to your end users. So to make sure that you can actually continue to manage Office 365 efficiently, about a year ago, last year in March, we started to roll out a completely new Office 365 Admin Center that actually reached general availability in September. And the new Office 365 Admin Center, and we will take a look at it in a second, because we're here for demos and not for slides, right? So the new Office 365 Admin Center makes it easier and faster for you to manage Office 365. And I know some of you, or when you hear easier and faster, you're of course concerned that that means less functionality. But you will see today that the opposite is actually true, that we have not only updated the look and feel of the Office 365 Admin Center, but we've also added additional management capabilities. And we have also added additional insights and information. So let's go ahead and take a look. Just go ahead here and jump into the new Admin Center. So this is the new Office 360. Nope, not yet. Duplicate. There we go. So this is the new Office 365 Admin Center. And when you land on the new Office 365 Admin Center, the first thing you will see is the new homepage. So we have completely redesigned the homepage. We have looked at what information do you actually search for the most, and what tasks and functionality do you need on a regular basis, like adding a user or resetting a password. And you have all of that now available directly here at your fingertips through these quick access tiles directly on the home page. And in many cases, when you click on any of those actions, let's just click on Add a User here, then you will have a flyout window come in from the right that provides you with more information and also more setting opportunities. So let's just go ahead and add a user, because we can do that now here directly in the flyout window without actually leaving the home page, which really simplifies the administration experience. So we'll go ahead and add Joffrey, because I haven't added him yet. Joffrey B. So the Admin Center also calls out to you which information is actually mandatory, that is marked by this little star, and which information is just optional. In Joffrey's case, we will just go ahead and quickly add some additional information so that we can find him more easily later. Landing, and of course also got a note that he lives in 7 kingdoms. So now in the same step, I can also reset the password, or actually auto-generate a password, or decide if I want to assign a specific password to Joffrey. And I can also assign him a role. Joffrey, of course, he would like to be a global administrator, but I really don't want him to be a global administrator. So we'll just leave him as a user for now. And, which is most important, in this same step, we can also assign an Office 365 license to Joffrey. So in our case here, we actually have a demo tenant with E5 licenses, so I will go ahead and assign an E5 license to Joffrey. And that's it. In less than a minute, I have created a new user. But often when you create a user, or when you actually complete an action in the Office 365 Admin Center, well, you want to do something next. And to help you with that, the new Admin Center now shows you suggested next steps directly in the confirmation window. So for example, when I create a user, well, I often want to add this user to a group, or I might want to share information with Joffrey on how to get started with Office 365. And to make that easier for you, we show you suggested next steps directly here after completing an action. So let's jump back to our dashboard, because the dashboard does not only show you frequent tasks, but it also now surfaces important information for you, like notifications from the message center. So let's do another show of hands here. How many of you use the message center on a regular basis? Okay, that's not enough hands. We got to change that. Next time when I ask, I want everybody to raise their hand. And I'm really serious about that, not only because of Brian, my coworker who owns the message center, somewhere here in the audience. No, but it's actually because the message center is the main channel that we use to communicate with you about your Office 365 tenant. So in the message center, we will inform you about features that are rolling out to your tenant, or features that are coming to your tenant in the near future. And most important, we will also inform you if there's any action that you have to take on your side in your on-prem environment to make sure and to keep this service running smoothly. And the message center, together with the new admin center, we have completely redesigned the message center as well. So on the one hand, you can now filter for the different message types that we have, and you can also easily see on here which of the messages are actually new messages that you haven't read yet, which is marked here by this little blue icon. So when I click on any of the messages, just take a look at this one here, Microsoft Teams admin experience has been changed and updated. So of course, you do receive a lot of messages in the message center because, as you know, Office 365 is really growing and evolving at a rapid pace. So to help you to really keep track of the messages that are important to you, you can now dismiss messages. So if I say, I don't really care about Teams, somebody else in my company takes care of Teams, I can just dismiss that. And then the message will directly not show up anymore in my inbox here. Or I can also, let's just click on a few messages, because sometimes you might read a message and then there's an information in there that you actually want to take an action on later. So if you want to flag that message for you, you can now also mark a message as unread. And most importantly, you can also directly from here easily share the whole information, the whole message with anybody in your organization. Any of you here in the audience who has like a SharePoint Power user group? Yeah, everybody does, right? Everybody, in every organization, there are those 4 or 5 people that know everything about SharePoint. And they want to know every news when they come out. So if you see now, actually, this is a perfect example, because this is a message about SharePoint Online. So you can now click on the share icon and share the whole message with that SharePoint Power user group without giving them access to the admin center. But if you, for example, you as an admin might actually not care that much about SharePoint because somebody else in your organization might be a dedicated SharePoint administrator. In that case, you can now also edit your message center preferences. So you can decide exactly for which services you want to see notifications in the message center to really only get the messages that are important to you. let's jump back to our dashboard. Because, well, frequent tests really, they depend from admin to admin. They vary. Depending on your role, depending on your organization, you might care about billing, but the next admin might not. We want this dashboard, the homepage, we want this to be a personal experience. So you can customize it. And you can do that by simply clicking on this little edit icon here at the top. And when you do that, then you can actually remove cards. For example, billing. I don't care about billing. Let's get rid of it. And then I can move cards to the top that I really care about, that are more important for me, so that I have the test that I need on a regular basis directly at my fingertips. And I can, of course, also add additional cards. One thing to notice here is that the cards that you see here, this is just kind of our first set of cards. We'll be adding more cards over time so that you can actually pin any of the subsites of the Admin Center directly to your homepage. And that, of course, also includes the product-specific admin centers, like the Exchange Admin Center or the Skype for Business Admin Center. But what if you look actually for a specific feature or functionality? Well, the old Admin Center also has a classic navigation menu here on the left that gives you access to all of the subsites of the new Admin Center. And you will see that we have completely redesigned the navigation menu as well to make it easier for you to get to the information that you're looking for. For example, you can now see all the settings for all the services on one single page. And of course, also from here, you can easily access the product-specific admin centers, like the Exchange Admin Center and the Skype for Business Admin Center. But the easiest and fastest way how to move around in the Admin Center is actually this search bar here at the top. I know, it's a tiny little search bar, but it's actually really powerful because anything in the Admin Center, you can search for it directly from here. Users, groups, settings, help topics. Oh, you get it. Anything that we have available in the Admin Center, you can search for it from here. And in many cases, let's just go ahead and search for one of our users, John. He always forgets his password, especially when he's right beyond the world, and of course he has other things to focus on. So we can now directly take action on him from here and actually reset his password without ever having to leave the homepage again. We have some customers that have shared the feedback with us that they actually use the search bar more than the normal navigation menu. So talking about feedback, I really want to ask you, if you have feedback on our administration experience, on the Admin Center, let us know. We have a feedback button here at the bottom that you can use to directly send us feedback on the specific page that you're on. And we read every single message that we get. At the beginning, when we started to roll out the Admin Center, we got about 1,000 messages per week. And we still read every single one of them. And I'm not kidding. Like before I joined Office Marketing, when people told me, yeah, we read every single message that we get, I was like, marketing bullshit. Well, I now know the people that read these messages. And it's actually the engineers that work on the Admin Center. So the messages, when you send us feedback, it will directly go to them. And then don't be surprised if we actually answer, because if you have a question or so, we will get back to you actually very quickly. So the new Admin Center does not only provide you with an updated UI, but we have also included more management capabilities and functionality. And one area that has especially improved is user management. So let's take a look at our active users page. So the active user page now supports infinite scroll so that you can see all of your users in one page. I only have a handful of people here in my demo tenant, but even if you had 20,000 users, you could see all of them in one page. And you can also easily see which license has been assigned to a user. That is especially helpful if you want to bulk edit users that have a specific license assigned. And then when you click on a user, the Admin Center will show you a flyout window from the right, of course, where you can see more information about that user, including group memberships, and where you can actually also edit more settings for that specific user. So in here directly, you can, for example, edit mailbox permissions, email forwarding, automatic replies. This is especially helpful if you have end users that are like me. They go on vacation, they totally forget to put an out-of-office message in. So you can manage that and set that on their behalf directly now here from the Admin Center. And we have also included the most important OneDrive settings, and we're currently working on bringing the Skype settings in here as well. And now when you choose several users, let's go ahead and add Dennis and Dorina. The Admin Center now allows you to bulk edit more properties, including domains, product licenses, and user roles. And as some of you might know, well, in the past, if you wanted to bulk edit licenses for a group of people, you had to use PowerShell for that. Well, so no more need for PowerShell. You can directly do that now here from the Office 365 Admin Center. And if you want to further process that information, if you want to further analyze it, you can actually export the whole user list into a CSV file that also provides you, there we go, let's just open that, that does not only provide you the information that you just saw in the Admin Center, but it actually provides you with all the information that we have for a user. So for example, in here you can also see when the password was changed for the last time. But as important as user management is, of course, groups management. And the new Admin Center now supports all different group types that we have. So you can now, in one page, you can see all of your distribution groups, all your Office 365 groups, your security groups, as well as your mail-enabled security groups. And when you open a group, just click on our executive corner here, you can now directly edit the members from here and also additional settings and properties. So let's jump back to our presentation for a second. So being able to manage Office 365 quickly and efficiently and having more management capabilities and functionality, that's all great. But what you have shared with us, feedback that we have received from you is, well, you also want to have more information. You want to have more insights, especially about how your end users are using and adopting Office 365. Why is that so important? So let's switch gears here a little bit. The Barbie doll is one of the best-selling toys in history. And no worries, you're still in the admin session. It's all good. Well, since the Barbie doll was introduced in 1959, more than 1 billion Barbies have been sold. So let's do a quick show of hand here. Who of you had a Barbie when they grew up? I know that's more of a female question. Yeah, but some, okay, also some guys. So I had a Barbie when I grew up. And it was actually when I got my first Barbie, it was a birthday present. So when I got it, I was super excited, and I loved it, and I played with it for hours and hours every day. My parents, well, they were actually pretty happy about that, because they didn't really have to think about any birthday presents anymore. But then the next year, it was my dad's turn to pick a birthday present for me. So he decided he will mix things up a little bit. So my dad, he holds a PhD in physics. Really intelligent guy. And well, so he decided that the perfect birthday present for me would be a physics experiment kit. Yeah, some of you know those kits, right? They teach you physics in a fun way. You can like grow crystals with it, launch a bottle rocket, really all fun and exciting stuff. Well, just not for me. So my dad, the day after my birthday, he left on a business trip. And when he came back a week later, I hadn't even opened my physics experiment kit. Why was that? Well, at that time, it wasn't really normal for girls to be interested in physics and computer science. And I simply didn't know what to do with it. All my friends, they just had Barbies. So when my dad came back, and he saw that I hadn't opened my physics experiment kit, he actually sat down with me. And he did the experiments together with me. And guess what? I loved it. But I needed this helping hand. I needed somebody to show me what I can actually do with the physics experiment kit. So now think about Office 365. My parents are you, the Office 365 admin. No worries, I'm not too bad of a kid. So you're my parents, and I am the end user. And you have bought an Office 365 license for me. Well, do you want me to ignore it like I ignored my physics experiment kit? Or do you actually want me to use my license every day, like I used my Barbie every day? You want me to use it, of course, because you want to get value out of Office 365. You have paid money for it. And if there is an end user who doesn't know how to use Office 365, if there is an end user who doesn't know how to get started, how to activate the product, or who doesn't know why they should be using Office 365, you want to know who they are so that you can also give them that little helping hand and provide them with end user training and communication so that you can increase usage of Office 365 and get the maximum value out of it. And to help you with that, as part of the new Office 365 Admin Center, we included new usage reports that provide you with a complete picture about how your end users are using and adopting Office 365. And that also show you and provide you with details down to the individual user level. So let's take a look. So there we go. So in order to, no, come on, thanks. So in order to get to the new usage reports, well, you can either use the left navigation here and click on usage reports, or you can also directly click on the tile that you have on your main homepage. And when you click on the tile, then you will land on the new usage reporting dashboard, which is kind of the centerpiece for the usage reports. On here, in the bar in the graph at the top, you can see how your users are using and adopting Office 365 across the different services, and also how many of your users are using the individual services. You will notice that throughout all the usage reports, we use graphs like this one here at the top to visualize the information, but also, of course, to make it easy for you to identify trends. So all of the reports, you can switch to different time periods. They're all available for 7, 30, 90, and 180 days. And you can already see how performant the reports are and how quickly they actually get generated. In addition to different time periods, you can also modify the reports because you can remove information or add it back in to really create a view that meets your needs. And when you place your mouse on one of these little dots here, you can actually see the information broken down to that individual day. So let's just switch to our 30-day, back to our 30-day view. So at the bottom of the dashboard, each of the main services has its own tile that makes it easy for you to understand what is actually happening within that service, because it shows you a summary of the main activity within that service. So, for example, for OneDrive, we can see how many messages have been, for email, we can see how many messages have been sent, received, and read. At the bottom of each tile, we have a bar graph that shows you a comparison between the number of active users and the number of users you have assigned a license to. Let me repeat that, because that is actually super important information. This bar graph here is one of your key indicators for adoption. So the whole bar graph shows the number of users that you have assigned a license to. And the blue part is then the number of users that are actually actively using that service. So you want this bar graph to be blue pretty much all the way. Because if not, that means that you have users that have a license, but that are not using that service. So this view is really helpful to identify those services where you want to, or where you might want to focus your end user training and communication going forward. Now, if you want to drill down, if you want to have more information, you can either click on one of those tiles, or you can also select the report from the drop-down menu here at the top. And the drop-down menu gives you access to all of the reports that we currently have available. So let's go ahead and take a look at the email activity report. But you will actually see that all the product-specific reports, they're very similar in nature. So at the top, we have a graph that shows you how that service is being used across the entire organization. So you can see here how many of your users, how many emails they have sent, how many emails they have received, and how often email messages they have read. Then in the table at the bottom, this is where it gets really interesting, because here you can see that information broken down to the individual user. So for each user, you can see in here how many emails they have sent, how many emails they have received, and how often they have read emails. Well, some of you might have noticed already that when we take a look at the username column, that we only have a weird string of numbers and letters in here. Also, how do I actually identify Anne, or Brian, or John? Well, normally this column would actually show my name, for example. But we have switched on the privacy feature here for those reports, because we know that many of you have very strict privacy guidelines in your organization, and you might not want your admins to see that information actually connected with the specific username. If that is the case, you can then anonymize the reports. And you can do that, of course, in the settings area. When you click on services and add-ins, there will be a paragraph or like a part for usage reporting where you can disable that setting. So normally, this would actually really display the name of the specific end user. You can also further modify the table, so you can add additional columns and also remove columns, again, to create a view that really meets your needs. And if you want to further analyze and process the data, you can download all of the usage reports into a CSV file so that you can open them with a tool like Excel to further pivot and further analyze the information. So the usage reports that you currently have available here in the Admin Center, this is just the beginning. This is kind of the standard set that we are providing right now, but we are working on additional usage reports. So for example, we're working on additional reports for SharePoint and OneDrive that will show you which clients and users are using to access those applications. But we are also working on onboarding additional services over time, because we know, of course, you also want to know how are people in my organization are using Planner, or how are they using Microsoft Teams. So that is something that we will add over time. And we are also working on a reporting API that will enable you to actually take all the information from the usage reports and include them in any local application monitoring solution, whatever you might be using within your organization. And we are working, let's switch back to our presentation, we are working on an adoption content pack in Power BI. And the adoption content pack in Power BI will be especially interesting for all of you that want to have more details and more information about how your users are using Office 365, and that want to further analyze the information. Because the usage reports in the admin center, well, they are a good starting point. But you have shared with us that you want to drill down deeper, one level deeper. You want to, for example, answer specific questions that you have in your organization, like which departments are actually using which services, or which products do my end users use the most to communicate with each other. And to help with that, we are combining the intelligence of the usage reports together with the interactive reporting capabilities of Power BI. We are currently working on an adoption content pack in Power BI that will enable you to further analyze and visualize the information. It will enable you to create your own custom reports. And it will also enable you to pivot by attributes such as location and department. And it will also enable you to easily share all that information with other people in your organization, like your CEO, your CIO. So let's also take a look at the content pack. And one thing, because I know that a lot of you have that question in your mind right now, is, oh my gosh, content pack, that sounds awesome, that looks good already, but do I have to pay for it? The answer is no. The content pack will be available for all Office 365 admins, and we have structured in a way that it works with the free Power BI SKU. So you don't even need Power BI Pro for it. So this is it. This is the first version of the Office 365 Adoption Content Pack in Power BI. And as you all know, Office 365 is all about collaboration and communication. So the content pack gives you access to a pre-built dashboard that we have built and filled with your data, where you can see how users in your organization are leveraging Office 365 to communicate and to collaborate, and how that has changed, especially also over time. So the dashboard is split up into 4 areas: adoption, communication, collaboration, and activation. And if you want to drill down into any of the metrics, into any of the reports that we have included on the dashboard, all you have to do is click on any of the metrics, and then you will land on a more specific report. So we'll go ahead now and take a look at the adoption overview report, because this report is really helpful as it shows you how your end users are using and adopting Office 365, and especially how that has changed over time, month over month. So in this graph here, you can easily see how many users you have assigned a license to. This is your teal bar here. And how many of those users are actively using those products, which is our black bar here. You can also see how many of your users are returning users that used the product the month before as well. This is our red bar. And the number of users that used the product for the first time in that very specific month. That's our yellow bar here. So what is really, when we built the content pack, what was really important for us is that the usage reports, as well as the content pack, well, this is just a starting point. And all the reports that we built in here, we built them to quickly enable you to interact with your data and to analyze your data. But we understand, of course, that you all have very specific questions in your organizations that you want to answer. So we have made sure that you can query the data. So when you're in the content pack, you can actually access all the data sets that we have behind these reports, and you can build your own reports. You can build completely new dashboards. And we have also included a lot of filters in the pre-built reports so that you can pivot the information directly in those reports as well. So for example, here, right now we see adoption at the Office 365 level, but we can easily switch to different views to see adoption for OneDrive, for SharePoint, or for Skype. So in addition to the main dashboard, and in addition to the main overview reports on adoption, collaboration, and communication, and activation, we have more reports, pre-built reports that we're already including in the content pack as well. And you can access them by simply clicking on any of the tabs here at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the Yammer usage report. And the Yammer usage report is especially interesting for organizations that are in the process of rolling out Yammer or that want to increase usage of Yammer. Because in here, you can see how your end users are using Yammer as a means of communication. So you can, for example, see how many people actually post messages on Yammer, or how many of your end users simply consume messages by reading or by liking them. And you can also see how new user activation has changed over time. But where it gets really interesting is actually here in the lower left corner, where it says department. Because what the content pack allows you to do is that it allows you to pivot by Azure Active or by Active Directory attributes such as department and location. Because what it does is that it takes the usage reporting data and it combines that usage information from your users with the Active Directory information of your users. So you can pivot by department or organization or location. And that's what you can see here in the lower corner. We've built in a filter so that you can switch the views to take a look at different departments. Well, as you can see, when you anonymize the reports in the usage center, that gets carried through to the content pack. That is the reason why here, again, we only see a weird string of numbers and letters. Normally, this would actually say engineering department, HR department, or whatever you actually call your departments in Active Directory. Let's switch back to the dashboard, because very often, you actually want to share this information with somebody who's not an admin and who does not have access to the Office 365 Admin Center. Right now, in order to access the usage reports, you have to be a global admin or a product-specific admin. We're also currently working on a reporting role, but the easiest way how to share this information, also in a really nice and visual way, is actually to use the sharing capabilities of Power BI. Because by including an email, you can simply share this whole dashboard and all the reports with anybody within your organization. And that is, of course, also the case when you customize the reports or when you build your own reports. So the question that all of you have now, of course, is, when will all of this be available for me? So we are currently running a limited preview for the Power BI content pack. And we are currently working on actually adapt or using all the feedback that we're getting from the preview to make sure that the product is ready for everybody. And our current ETA for the content pack to become available is in March. And we will, of course, inform you through all the channels that we have once it is available, because I know there are a lot of people that want to get their hands on it. So let's do another show of hands here. Who of you would like to have more information during and after a service incident? Okay, I don't even have to finish the question. I see people raising their hands already. Again, I'm not surprised about that, because for many of you, moving to Office 365 was a big change. In your on-prem world, in the on-premise environment, well, you rolled out changes into that environment in a very controlled and slow way. And whenever there was a service incident, you were the ones investigating that service incident and also solving it, of course. Well, in Office 365, things look a little bit different because you trust us. You trust Microsoft in running the service. And you, of course, also trust us in solving any service incidents, if there are any. But, well, you still want to know what's going on. You still want to have access to all the details. Are there any Germans here in the audience, besides me? Okay, anybody who has ever driven on the German Autobahn? Okay, got a few people here. Okay, well, you then know the German Autobahn is the paradise for drivers. Like, really nice roads, very nice and fast cars, no speed limit, and of course, very well-educated drivers. So really, paradise for all drivers, but we still have traffic jams in Germany. Why is that? Well, because you can have the best roads, the best cars, But there might still be things, outside factors that you can't control. So traffic jams will happen. There might be a tree on the Autobahn because of a storm. Or sometimes there might be a little dog running around that escaped, that jumped out of the car. So things like that happen. And then we have traffic jams. So now imagine you are stuck in a traffic jam. And I know nobody likes to be stuck in a traffic jam, but just imagine you're in your car, you drive on the freeway, and then you hit traffic. Stop. Nothing's moving. So that's not a nice situation. But what makes the difference is the amount of information you have access to. Because don't you want to know what the reason for that traffic jam is? Don't you actually want to know how long it will take? How much longer it will take you to get home? And most important, of course, actually before you hit that traffic jam, is there a way how to avoid it? Is there a way how to drive around it? And now think about Office 365, because it's very similar. Service incidents have very many things in common with traffic jams. They happen. They are reality for every service provider. But what makes the difference is the amount of information that you have access to. Because when there is a service incident, don't you want to know what the reason for the service incident is? Don't you want to know what the impact on your organization is? How many of your users are impacted? Which of your users are impacted? And of course, most important, is there a workaround? Can you keep them productive in some way? And then, of course, how long will the service incident take? So to provide you with more information during and after a service incident, at Ignite in September, we announced a new service health dashboard that will provide you with more personalized and actionable information. So the new service health dashboard will not only provide you with timely and accurate information, but it will provide you with a new level of service health insights that will not only allow you to actually easily stay on top of service incidents, but it will also help you to improve the support experience you have within your organization. And as a result of that, also improve the experience your end users have using Office 365. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'll jump back into our admin center. And on the new Service Health dashboard. Because if you are on first release, you will actually already see the new Service Health dashboard in your admin center. So another question. I know I asked a lot of questions today, but how many of you own an apartment or a house? Quite a few. Good. Me too. I own an apartment. So imagine your house could talk. I know we're not there yet, but at some point, just imagine. So your house can talk, and it calls you right now, right? You get a phone call from your house, and your house informs you or wants to inform you about two issues that are happening with your house. So first, your house will tell you, well, we have an issue. The microwave is broken. Well, normally, that won't be a big problem for you, except you depend on the microwave to actually prepare dinner every night. But normally, you'll be okay with your house calling an electrician, and that person comes by in a few days, because you can survive without a microwave for a few days. Then next, your house tells you, well, there's another problem. There's water coming down from the ceiling in the bathroom. What? You don't care about this stupid microwave anymore. You want to know more about that water leak. That is actually a serious problem. If there's water coming down from the ceiling, that might mean that there's a really big problem going on with your house. And you want your house, of course, to call somebody to take a look and take care of it right away. Now think about service incidents. There are service incidents that are more important for you than others. For example, if your end users cannot send or receive emails, that is normally a really big problem, because that normally means that they cannot get their work done. But if they're trying to schedule a meeting with somebody else, let's say I try to schedule a meeting with my coworker Brian, and I cannot see if Brian is free and busy. I cannot see his availability at that time. Well, that's not such a big issue normally, because I can actually still get my work done. And to help you identify those business-critical incidents that you might want to react on right away, the new Service Health Dashboard actually separates major outages from others, and it puts them into two categories: incidents and advisories. So incidents, that's our water problem. And advisory, that is just our microwave. So you can really see when you land on here where you have to focus your attention right away. And then when you want to have more information, you can simply click on the specific advisory or incident. And then, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Then we have a new summary view that shows you all the relevant information, really easy and quick to consume. So we have a new title where you can directly see what the incident or the advisory is about. And we have a new user impact summary that provides you with all the important information in just 2 sentences. And then, of course, if you want to have more details, you can simply click on more details, and then we have a flyout window coming in from the right, of course. That provides you with all the information that we have for that specific incident or advisory. So you can also see here workaround solutions, and you can also see the message history. And if you want to see actually not only the history for one specific incident, but if you want to see all the incidents that have happened in the past, you can click on the View Past 30 Days link here at the top, so that you can then see all the different incidents from the last 30 days. Let's actually go ahead and jump into another incident on here, which is one of the Exchange incidents. Because, well, when there's an incident, you do not only want to know what the workaround solution is and how long it will take and what we're doing on our end to resolve that issue. What you're really interested about is, of course, what is the impact on my organization? How many of my users are impacted by that service incident? Because very often, when there is a service incident and it shows up on your dashboard, that does not have an effect on all of your end users. And so to help you better understand the impact of the service incident on your organization, we now show you the number of affected users. This is a feature that currently we only have that for Exchange, but we're working on adding additional services to that as well. But so in here, you can directly see how many of your users are affected by that specific service incident. So this Service Health dashboard, as said, is already available for all first release customers. And we are working on bringing it to general availability. And we expect actually to hit it GA in about 2 to 3 weeks. So then all of you will have access to this new Service Health dashboard. But also here, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started and providing you with more Service Health insights. Because it is, of course, great to know how many of your users are impacted, but what you really care about is you want to know which of your users are impacted. You want to know the impact on the individual user. The question that always comes when there's a service incident, is my CEO affected? Right? Because those are like, you have those list of people that you might want to reach out to proactively right away. So to help you with that, we will actually provide you with the whole list of impacted end users that are impacted by that specific service incident. And then you can actually reach out to them proactively if appropriate. For example, if I see that my coworker Brian, that he is on that list, I can then reach out to him and tell him about the service incident, first of all, so that he does not have to reach out to our support desk. And I can also inform him directly about workaround solutions to keep him productive. So that is great because, well, he can still get his work done, but it, of course, also helps because you improve your support experience. And you also improve the general satisfaction that your end users have with support as well as with Office 365. But we understand, of course, that, well, not everybody comes to the admin center every day. But when there is a service incident, you want to know about it. You want, like my house, I want my house to call me when there's a water problem in our house. So to help you get the information whenever you need it, through the channels that you actually use and that you prefer, we're working on enabling notifications for the Service Health Dashboard so that you can get a text message or an email to inform you about any incidents that are having an impact and an effect on your company. Another feature that we're working on is Tell Us. And Tell Us is a new Service Health Dashboard feature that will give you a quick and easy way to inform Microsoft if you think that you are impacted by a service incident that does not show up on the Service Health Dashboard yet. So if you think there's a service incident that has an effect on my company, or you have an end user reporting an issue, then you can send us a quick signal, a quick message directly from the Service Health Dashboard. And we will use that together with all the other signals that we already use today to identify service incidents even quicker. And of course, when I say, well, you can send that to us, this is not me. This is actually, when you send a message through Tell Us, this will directly go to the responsive engineering team so that they can really directly jump on it and investigate the issue. But what about the end user? How can we really make sure that the end user has a better experience during a service incident? Because what we really want to avoid is that somebody sits in front of their Outlook and they're trying to send an email, it doesn't work, they don't know why, they don't know if it's a problem with Office 365 or if it's an internet problem, they don't know what's going on, right? We want to avoid that. We want to have happy end users. So what we're introducing is end user monitoring. So you will be able to monitor your critical users. You will be able to put them on a watch list so that you can directly find out when there is an incident that has an impact for them. For example, right, some of you might put your CEO on that watch list, or your CIO, or your general leadership team, so that you really can make sure that they are productive. And you will also be able to run proactive health checks against our system. Because let's just imagine a scenario, somebody comes to your support desk and they say, well, my Outlook doesn't work. Oh, that happens, that somebody comes to your support desk with exactly that, and then you ask, why, what's going on? They say, well, it just doesn't work. Well, then you want to investigate. And of course, first of all, you want to know, is that user impacted by a service incident, by an Office 365 service incident? So you can then run a test against our services to see if that is the case. Because if that is not the case, then you can continue your investigation. See if there's a problem with Wi-Fi, if there's a setting problem. End users sometimes like to change configurations and settings, though you don't want them to, right? So you can really then kind of continue your investigation there. But what happens if you work in a really big company? Because, for example, when I put Brian on my watch list and I see that he is impacted by a service incident, I can connect with him about that and give him information about how long it will take and give him information about workaround solutions. But when I'm responsible for 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 users, well, that's a little bit more complicated because I cannot reach out to all of them personally. So to help you with that, we are introducing optional in-product messaging. And I really want to call out that this will be optional because we know that many of you already have your established communication channels that you use to communicate with your end users. So you will be able to disable or enable that feature. But when you enable it, then your end users, whenever there is a service incident, they will actually see like a pop-up window directly in product to help make them aware of the service incident, to inform them about any workaround solutions so that they can keep productive, and also to give them information of when that service incident will be resolved. So for example, if there's a problem with Outlook, they might see a message that tells them to use Outlook on the web. And in that message, they will also be able to check a box to say, hey, I want to get a notification whenever the service is restored, so that I can know when I can actually jump back to Outlook and continue to send my emails from there. So as you've seen, we have a lot of improvements coming in the Office 365 administration area. And you will hear in a lot of other sessions here at the Tech Summit at all the other improvements that we have coming in the end user space. So how do you stay up to date? How do you stay current with all the new features and functionality? That is a very important question for IT to ask themselves. Because release cycles and the rollout of new features are very different in Office 365 in comparison to the on-prem world. So before Office 365, before the cloud, we, Microsoft, we rolled out changes like new server versions in cycles of roughly 3 years. In between, we might release cumulative, like updates, security patches, and service packs, but kind of every 3 years, that's when you would get a new server version, new product. And you, as a company, you as an organization, you are then responsible for validating the code, for deploying it across your servers, and then also to inform your business, to inform your end users. While in Office 365, that's very different, because Microsoft, we are responsible for validating the code. We are responsible for deploying it. And then we are responsible to inform you about the changes and about the new features. And in addition to that, so we do not only have those 3-year release cycles anymore, but actually in addition to that, Office 365 is designed to be an evergreen service. It is designed to provide you always with the most current solutions and features, which is great because, as said, we all love new features and functionality. And we want to get our hands on the new stuff right away. That's why we work in IT. But how does that actually work? So every data center region in Office 365 is made up of multiple geographically dispersed data centers for redundancy. And we also have data replicas of customer data in multiple data centers. That means that we can actually take a server out of rotation, upgrade the software, and put it back in without the end user even noticing. So there is no need anymore for downtime or for maintenance windows, which of course, I mean, when you run a worldwide and global service, there is no time, there are no weekends where you can actually, where it would actually be acceptable to have downtime because of time differences and also because of the global workforce. Like, at least I sometimes work on the weekend. But this is great, that all the services are always current, but that also actually creates a challenge because that means that for you as an IT department, it is extremely important to actually communicate that change and to manage that change and to understand that change, to understand the new features that are coming to your service. And it is our responsibility as Microsoft to inform you about those new features and services. And we do that actually through various channels. Like one of them is events like this one, where we inform you about new updates. But other channels that we use is the Office blog. So the Office blog, which you can access at blogs.office.com, I always like to call that our technology newspaper, because we use the Office blog to share information about new features, to share best practices, to also give you insights into our strategy and to our vision. So that's all what you can find on the Office blog. Then, if you want to have a more granular view, you can find that on the Office 365 roadmap. On here, you can see for all the different services that we have, which features we are currently working on. And you can also see actually kind of in which stage they are, because we categorize the features on the roadmap. So any features that are listed on there as launched, that means that they are available to all eligible tenants. Any features that are listed as rolling out, that means that we've started to deploy the code, but that you might not see it in your tenant yet, because we actually deploy change like kind of over time. And features that are listed as in development, well, that's clearly features that we're currently working on and that we share with you so that you know what is coming, but they're not available to you yet. And we already talked about the message center. I really want to reinforce the message center again. The message center is the main channel that we use to communicate with you about changes that are important or that are actually that are directly for your tenant. Because the roadmap and the blog, they're great, but they give you very generic information. But you do, of course, want to know, what does this mean for my tenant? And that is information that you can find in the message center. Because the message center is actually connected to your cloud identity. So you will only see messages, the right messages for your configuration, for your location, and for your subscription. And another great source is the Office 365 technical community. The technical community is kind of, think about it as a huge online forum where you can connect with other Office 365 admins, where you can share best practices, but most important, where you can ask questions. And it's not only us from Microsoft. I'm on there all the time responding to questions from customers, but we also have a lot of MVPs on there that respond to questions as well. So it's really a great way how to not only connect with other people, but to also get your questions answered. But while it is great or helpful to know what is coming, well, many of you, of course, want to plan ahead. And whenever there is a new feature rolling out, you want to actually test it first in your organization. You might want to train your IT help desk to make sure that whenever you roll out a new feature, that the rollout is actually smooth. And to help you with that, you have different ways of how to actually, we have different release cycles in Office 365. So we have standard release, which means if you're on standard release, you will get the features whenever we roll them out to anybody. But if you want to have early access to a feature, then you can sign up for first release. And there are two ways how you can configure first release. And of course, where do you configure that? In the admin center. So when you configure first release, you can either configure first release for select people. You can then identify and people in your organization, like Brian, John, and you can put them on first release, and only those people will get the first release experience and will have early access to those features. Or the second option is, you can also set your entire tenant to first release, but that is actually something that we only recommend for testing tenants or for secondary tenants. So, to summarize, kind of, when is all this coming to you? When will all those features that we talked about today become available to you? So the new admin center is already available for everybody. So when you go to portal.office.com, you log in and you click on admin, you will land on the new admin center. The content pack, we are aiming to roll that out in March. The usage reports, you can already access them. They are already also available for all of you in your Office 365 Admin Center. And the Service Health Dashboard, if you are on first release, you do already see that in your Admin Center. And if you're not on first release, then just give it about 2 or 3 weeks. Then we will reach GA with the Service Health Dashboard, and it will become available to you as well. With that, a few resources. Because as you've seen today, there's a lot of things that have been happening in the area of Office 365 administration. We have a new admin center. We have new usage reports. We have a new content pack in Power BI. We have a new Service Health Dashboard. All, of course, with the goal to help you and to make sure that you can manage Office 365 more efficiently, that you can actually spend less time managing Office 365, so that you have more time for strategic discussions with your CEO, for infrastructure planning, or also, of course, so that you don't have to work any over hours and you can go home and watch Games of Thrones. My name is Ann Michaels. Thank you for your time.